In this video, we're going to take a look at the Garmin Rally XC200 pedals, which is a power meter pedal. If you're not familiar with the Garmin power meter pedals, you can get them in an SPD style, which of course is this one. You can also get them in a Shimano style road pedal and a Look style road pedal. For model numbers, like I said, this is the XC200, which means it's the dual-sided power meter. The XC100 is a single-sided power meter. In other words, the power meter is just in one pedal. And the same thing with the Shimano and the Look style road pedals. Now, I've been using a single-sided power meter on my gravel bike for quite a while. It's a Stages power meter, super simple, works great, but I've never had a double-sided power meter, so I'm excited about trying these. Now, the advantage of having the power meter in the pedals is it's super easy to install and super easy to switch between bikes. I can't say the same thing about the crank arm style because the crank arm style on my gravel bike is different than the mountain bike, and the crank length is different. The crank length of the gravel bike I think is like a 172, and then the mountain bike's a 175, so that wouldn't work. The pedals I can just swap them between bikes, which is really going to be helpful because some of the bike tests that I do, I'll do like a time trial test between two different styles of bikes or two different bikes. And it'd be nice to have a power meter because sometimes, you know, if I'm faster on a bike, did I have to put out more power to make it go faster? So again, it's really going to help in those kind of things. But it's just going to be cool to have this data in a dual-sided power meter because with Garmin, pairing it to the 830 or the 1030 or whatever you want to pair it to, you can get some data that tells you how much time you spend standing or sitting. It'll give you the balance between the left and the right leg. As far as training, there is no better way to train than using a power meter. I've used a heart rate monitor for years. When I switched to a power meter, it was just next level. And up until now, I've never had a power meter on my mountain bike. It's only been on the gravel bike. And the way that I would probably use this on the mountain bike on the trails is more of analyzing the data after the ride or after a race versus trying to monitor on, you know, the head unit of the 830, which is what I'll be using on the mountain bike. Now, if I'm doing like intervals on a gravel road or on the road on a mountain bike, then yeah, I'll monitor the head unit. But on the trails, it's probably going to be a little hard to kind of watch the unit. So what I'm going to do in this video is take them out of the box. I'll show you what you get. I'll pair them to my head unit, which again will be the 830. That's super simple to pair power meters to the Garmin head units. I'll show that process real quick, and then I'll pick the video back up in a couple weeks to talk about how I like using these. So I'm just going to show what you get with these. I'm not going to do like a crazy long unboxing video, but that's the pedal. And I have Shimano SPD pedals on all of my bikes, my gravel bike and all of my mountain bikes. You do get some cleats, but I've already got cleats installed on my shoes. And you get some extra O-rings, that's for the battery compartment. And then you get the manual, so super simple. Before I go in the garage and put these on the bike and show how you pair them to a head unit, I'll go over a few specs of these. So the battery type is an LR44 or SR44, and the battery compartment is right there. So when it comes time to change the battery, it's a 4mm Allen wrench. Just take this off, put in a new battery. Now, from what I understand, Garmin has really improved the battery caps. So some of the first generations of the pedals had some issues with the battery cap, so they've improved that. So that's nice. And by the way, battery life is 120 hours approximately. That's with an LR44 battery. The weight is 448 grams. That's, I'm assuming, for the pair. Now, that's pretty comparable to Shimano XT pedals, heavier than Shimano XTR, but I use XT on my bike. XTR is like 314 grams, and XT is around this weight of the 448, maybe a little bit lighter. They're an IPX7 waterproof rating, and then the max rider weight is 105 kilograms. So what is that in pounds? Hey Siri, convert 105 kilograms to pounds. 231 pounds. So if you weigh more than that, these are not your pedal. And the rest of the specs you can get off Garmin's website. All right, I'm gonna go in the garage. Let's put these on the bike and let's pair them to the head unit. So I'll go ahead and take off the Shimano XT pedals. And by the way, on these, you use an 8mm Allen wrench on the back side. The way the Garmin pedals are, because of the hardware, you can't do that. So you have to use a pedal wrench or a 15mm wrench to take them off or install them. Take these off. Pedals, right pedal is a normal thread, left is reverse, in case you didn't know. Just put a little grease on the threads and install them. tightening with the hand, finish it up with a pedal wrench or 15mm open-ended wrench. So that is the fastest power meter install you will ever do. Less than a minute and you can put a power meter on a bike. That's cool. So Garmin does say that the little hardware piece in the back sticks out 2mm. So you want to make sure you don't have any contact issues with the chain or the chainstay, which I don't. I've got tons of room, but just something to note there. Now it's time to pair and calibrate. I'm just going to spin each pedal a few times to wake it up. Make sure it's ready to pair. To pair the pedals on my 830, I'm just going to go to my settings and go to sensors, go to add sensor, search all. I'm going to spin the pedals again, make sure they're awake. So it found the Rally pedals. I'm going to put a check mark there. Tap on add. So we should be good to go. The last thing that you want to do is you want to calibrate the pedals. And I've heard that it's good to go out and do a few hard sprints before you do this for the first time. But I'm just going to go ahead and tap on my sensors. And then I'm going to go to my power meter, the Rally pedals. Tap on calibrate and then calibrate. And that's going to, again, get them calibrated. Calibration successful. So we're good to go. So it's 2 weeks later and I've used the Garmin Rally XC200 pedals on training rides. I've used them in a cross-country mountain bike race and a mountain bike time trial. I actually found myself monitoring the head unit, the Garmin 830, more than I thought I would. So obviously on training rides, being able to really look down at your power and find that zone that you need to train on, that's what they're most useful for. But in the race, I found myself watching the head unit on climbs to make sure I wasn't going too hard. So when I got to those situations where my power was starting to go way above my threshold, I knew it was time to back it down. And like I said, that was easier to do on climbs on single track than I thought it would be. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you some of the graphs that you can look at. I'm going to show you the ones on my phone with the Garmin Connect app. And that's where these things are really cool, to really look at your data, all kinds of data you can look at. And so here are the graphs on the phone. I'm in the Garmin app. I'm going to tap on a recent race that I did. And now with the power meter, I'm going to have more data than I used to have. So I'm on the main screen. I can see my basic data, the time that I rode, the distance. At the bottom, you can see that I was using the Edge 830. I'm on the 9.4 update. And then you can see that I was using the Rally pedals. I'm going to tap on the next little icon here. And again, I've got more data to look at. So I've got my typical data, you know, the speed, the time, all that. I was using a heart rate monitor, but now I've got power. And so it's got average power, which my average pedaling power, I can tell you, was a lot higher than that, but it was a cross-country race with a lot of turns. So there's a lot of sections where I would stop pedaling and then start pedaling, and then you can see the max power, about 700 watts. And then it's got left-right balance. So I'm assuming that's because I have one, you know, I keep my right foot forward when I'm going over obstacles and that kind of thing. So I think it was skewed like that because when I do a consistent ride, my power is pretty even, like 50% each one. It's got normalized power. So I'm not going to go through all this, but you know, again, it's just got data that I didn't have. Cadence, I don't have a cadence sensor on the bike. It's just using the power meter. It's got total standing time 0. So when I cross country race, because we don't live in the mountains, I try not to stand up because it will blow up your legs. But cycling dynamics here, it has a lot of numbers that I'm not really going to go into because I would honestly have to do a lot of research on this, which I have not. But I just want to show you that there's a lot of data to work with if you want to geek out about the data. I'm gonna go over to the graphs because those are really cool. So first of all, I'm gonna go to the laps and I'm gonna show you that I have power. So I'm gonna rotate the phone sideways. So the first two screens that I showed, you cannot rotate the phone, but on these last two screens, you can rotate and get kind of some different information. So I'm going to rotate it. So with the phone rotated in a landscape position, I can scroll over. Again, if you wanted to do laps and, you know, check your average power, average heart rate, you can do that. I'm going to go back and we're going to look at the graphs. Okay, tapping on the graph icon. So again, with the phone in a landscape position, so if I tap on the graph, I can go into the graph and then I can pinch and zoom, just in case you didn't know that. So here's the power, and this is interesting, and this is, you know, about what I expected for a cross-country race where you're doing surges and stop pedaling and surges because, you know, it's a lot of cornering. You know, if you were riding the mountains where you had a 20-minute climb, the power graph would look a lot different. But for our courses, it is just, like I said, super hard effort. And then, you know, you stop pedaling for a turn. So I'm going to tap on the graph. Once I tap on the graph, I can add layers. So if I wanted to add a speed layer, I can tap on the speed there, and it's going to put that over on top of the power. So again, you can geek out with this stuff and really get a lot of different data. Heart rate. So what I'll do is just scroll down through some of these graphs. So you got your left-right balance, you've got your cadence, position, seated and standing, which to me, like, that's probably one of the coolest things for me to look at, because if I'm on a different type of course, I can judge how I felt, how, you know, what my average power was, how much time I stood standing. So it just gives you a lot of information to help you, you know, with your training. This is one that I find interesting. It tells you, like, if you're pedaling offset, which I knew my legs are shaped a little funny at the bottom. And so I knew that I put more pressure on the outside of the pedal, and this confirms it. So this will kind of show you if you pedal in the middle or on the outside, inside, whatever. And then time in the heart rate zone, and then time in power zone. And this is something that I really look at, and especially when I'm training. I can see, you know, how much time I spent in the different zones. So that is my review of the Garmin XC200 pedals. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, it's the first time I've had a power meter on a mountain bike and the first time I've had a double-sided power meter, and I've really enjoyed using these, not only while riding, but also analyzing the data afterwards. Having a power meter in the pedals is the easiest way to put a power meter on a bicycle, and then of course swapping it between different bikes. You can't do that with any other style of power meter that easily, that quickly. One thing that I do want to mention is that you can actually get a conversion kit for these pedals to convert it to a different style of pedal. So if you want to take the mountain bike style pedal, for example, and convert it to the road style, either Look or Shimano, you can get the conversion kit from Garmin. It's $250 for the road style pedal, and then the mountain bike conversion kit, so going from road to mountain, that's a $400 conversion kit. Another nice thing about that is, should you ever damage the outer body, you don't have to replace the whole pedal. You can just get the conversion kit and swap it out, and that way you don't have to replace the more expensive spindle, the power meter sensor. So any questions or comments that you have about these pedals, drop those below. And if you've used these pedals, let me know in the comments below what you think about them. Thanks for watching.